Three, two, one. We live. We live. Yo, peace rolling out, family. Today we welcome Whitney B. Hampton of Hampton Real Estate and Investments. Whitney B. Hampton is redefining the idea of what real estate and investment in underserved communities. Hampton launched her business in 2019 and has since booked $8 million in sales and provided the keys to countless families with regards to home ownership and financial freedom. Hampton's weekly podcast, Wealth Building Wednesdays, has operated as a weekly space to show investors how to maximize their wealth opportunities. Let us welcome Whitney B. Hampton. Hello, hello.
Hey, how are you guys?
Yes, how are you?
I am great. I am excited to speak with you today.
Yes, it's amazing. Your story is just amazing, and I'm very excited to talk to you and just kind of get a full scope of who you are. So I understand time is important, so I just want to jump right into it if it's okay.
Let's go.
All right, awesome. Now, talk about what led you down the road of real estate investing. How did this even get started?
Absolutely. So I am a graduate of DePaul University with a degree in finance and Spanish. So at the time I was going to DePaul to get my degree. Also worked in corporate America during the day, was going to school at night, and had a huge network of contractors that were friends or family members. And some of the stories that I would hear were just hilarious. I often served as an administrative assistant to most of them for their businesses. And so one day I had came up with the idea that I was going to pitch a show to DIY network for the contractors that I was assisting, my family members and friends. Mm-hmm. And so got a crew together, was starting to film, and someone mentioned, we need a real estate broker. All the hit shows have contractors and a real estate broker. Mm-hmm. And so I said, okay, well, who should we pick? And so they said, why don't you just go get a real estate license? And so I did. I looked up right at that moment what it would take to become a real estate broker. I signed up for the class, started the following week, passed the test the first time I took it, and boom, I have a real estate license. Mm-hmm. We ended up not going forward with pitching the show, but I had the license. So 6 months later, not even thinking anything about real estate, I said, wow, I have this license. I should put it to use in some way.
Right.
So I started telling individuals that I knew in my sphere of influence that I was a licensed real estate broker. Going downtown every day, I took the Metro. And so I told one of the Metro conductors that I had recently gotten my license and that if he knew anyone to let them know. He called me the following week and said, Whitney, my cousin is moving back to Illinois. She needs a house. It's her first time. And I gave her your information. And I said, did you tell her that I've never done this before? And he said, yes, I told her that you were brand new, but I've seen your energy. I think that you have character and integrity and you will do great with her. I said, okay. So I reached out to her. We immediately started working together. Long story short, I found them the house of their dreams, way under budget, because even when I first started out, I understood the importance of real estate being used as a tool to build wealth. Mm-hmm. And so that you can't buy property at the top of your budget and expect to do that.
Right.
So I found them a home that they loved. It was way under their budget. And we get to the closing table and her husband start crying. And so I'm a emotional person. So immediately I go to hug them and I'm like rubbing their back. What's wrong? What are you guys experiencing? And the husband says, we are the first people in our home and our family to own. Even when we first started talking to you, we didn't believe that this could actually happen or become a reality. And it was in that moment that I knew that real estate was my purpose. Since I was a young child, I understood that I was put here to help people realize their dreams. I just didn't know how I would be able to do that. Mm-hmm. Growing up with grandparents that were entrepreneurs, I saw a huge network of Black entrepreneurs that were in all type of different industries. They had phenomenal ideas, but they wouldn't pass on from generation to generation. Once those parents would pass away, the business would stop.
Mm-hmm.
And that always bothered me. And so I had made up in my mind I was going to help Black entrepreneurs come up with financing, which is why I went to school for finance.
Mm-hmm.
How can we keep these businesses in perpetuity instead of them stopping as soon as the founder passes away?
Right.
And so that was my goal initially. And then real estate opened up for me. And I realized here is how I can give back to our communities, is helping increase the number of those in our communities that own.
So that's one thing I wanted to touch on also, and that story is amazing. Talk about why it's important to share this knowledge with underserved communities.
Because we have this huge gap in wealth, right? So the only way that we're going to see a shift in the trajectory of our communities is if we begin to add wealth to our portfolios. And how do we do that? One of the easiest and almost secure ways to do that is through real estate. If you look at millionaires and billionaires and the majority of their portfolios, they own real estate.
Mm-hmm.
For so many years, we were kept out of the real estate market through discriminatory practices that were considered legal in the 60s and 50s and 40s.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the only reason why they would go through such trouble to keep us out of the housing market is because of the ability to truly change our communities with it. When you're purchasing and you're owning in your community, not only are you increasing the tax roll, but where do your taxes go? To your school system.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't own in your community, there is a deficit in your school system. And we see that. We see that in our communities every day. If there's a deficit in our school system, who does that impact? Our children, the very next generation that we're trying to build up to be able to create a change in our community. How can they do that if they're operating from a deficit? So real estate not only helps you individually create wealth and leave a legacy for your family, but intuitively, it actually helps us as a community.
So definitely, and that is so powerful because that is an intention that we need to be very deliberate about when it comes to transforming our space mentally and realistically, financially, and physically in our areas. Now, you're speaking a lot about the investment space, the real estate space. What would you say are the top 3 things people need to be aware of when getting involved in real estate and investing?
So the top 3 things that you need to have in order to invest in real estate, and there are a number of ways to invest in real estate, right? So if you are thinking, I want to own a property I've never owned before, my strongest suggestion is that you first purchase a multi-unit building instead of just a single family home. Well, why is that, Whitney? As a first-time home buyer, there are government programs meant to help and escalate the number of people that are purchasing, right? So if you have an FHA or conventional or VA loan and you're a first-time home buyer, you have a 3.5% down payment with FHA. You have a 3 5 or 10% down payment with conventional, and no down payment with VA on your first property. If you purchase your building first, especially a 3 or 4 flat in Illinois, that building is not only going to pay your mortgage, you're going to see a return, right? You're going to net income every month. You only have to live in that property for 1 year, and then you can purchase either another multi-unit building or your dream single family home. And the income from that first building will likely pay for both mortgages of that first building and your single family home. Now you're living rent free, right? You don't have a living expense. You can then take that money that you would usually use to pay for rent or to pay a mortgage, and you can now invest, right, in other opportunities, whether that's the stock market, whether that's additional real estate. If you were to do it the opposite way, buy a single family home and then purchase a multi-unit building, you're looking at a 25% down payment on that second property.
Right.
If you do it multi-unit, then single family, it's 3.5% down on both properties because they're considered owner occupied.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we need to do to be able to qualify for that? You need to make sure that at minimum you have a 620 credit score. Now, you're going to hear people say, oh, we can get you approved at 580. We can get you approved with no money down.
Right.
Yes and no, right? If
Yeah.
you're at a 620,
But what's the reason why you wouldn't want to do that? Right.
here's the big reason: the interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
Your mortgage is made up of four things: the principal on your loan, your interest rate, your property taxes, and your homeowner's insurance. That interest rate is what you're being charged for using the lender's money, right? At a 580 credit score, you are going to get the worst interest rates available to you.
Yeah.
And that's going to be for 30 years. At just a 620, which is what, a 40 point jump, you have a substantially different interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing: if you're at a 580, you talk to me, I'll connect you with the lender. We can actually do what we call a rapid rescore to
Mm-hmm.
tell you exactly what you need to do to get to a 620 in the shortest amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no reason really to try to buy at a 580. That interest rate's going to kill you. You're not going to qualify for any down payment assistance programs, which means that you will have had to have saved at least 3.5% down.
Mm-hmm.
The other part, closing costs. When you're talking to sellers, and right now we're in what we call a seller's market, they want to know that you have a strong financial background when deciding to choose your offer. If you're at the bottom of the barrel and just barely qualifying, that impacts your ability to purchase,
Mm-hmm.
and people seeing you as a desirable candidate to purchase their property. So we want to pay strong attention to our credit scores when thinking about investing in real estate. We also want to pay attention to our savings.
Yeah.
You are going to hear people say 100 times, oh, when you can purchase with no money down, you can purchase with no money down. That's not true. Even if you qualify for down payment assistance programs in your state, in your community, and there are tons of them, one, you have to have that credit score. And two, that's only covering the down payment. But there are out-of-pocket expenses attached to purchasing property.
Mm-hmm.
Earnest money, inspection, attorney fees, appraisal. Those are all out-of-pocket costs. You need about $5,000 to handle just that portion.
Yeah, what's interesting is that those are not the things that are at the top of mind when people are thinking about purchasing a home. So I'm glad that you're dropping that information.
Well, and it's important, and this is just to go back to your initial question: why is it important that we give this information to underserved communities? One, because I want you to be prepared. I want you to be educated about the process. If you're educated, not only will you get involved in the process, but you'll do it again and again and again. A lot of times, us as a community, we find a home and we live there for 30, 40, 50 years until we pass away. And there's nothing wrong with that. But truthfully, we should see real estate as an investment, even if it's a property you live in.
Mm-hmm.
You purchase that property in an area that's appreciating. We allow it to accumulate equity. We sell that property for much more than you purchased it for because we're going to keep it up to date. We sell it about 7 to 10 years later and draw down on that profit and then pour that into more real estate.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way that other communities do it. If you choose to stay in the home for 30, 40, 50 years, there's nothing wrong with that. But you want to keep it up to date so that you can pull equity from it. You can literally send your children to college with the equity from your home instead of paying 25% interest rates on student loans.
Mm-hmm.
You can pull down the equity and be paying 3% interest.
Yeah.
And then you're not tying that debt to your children, which is often a huge barrier for us as a community to purchase property, is that we have such high student loan rates and are not making enough income to compensate for the amount of debt that we have.
You mentioned the barrier, and when I think about what you're saying, a lot of this information hasn't been shared freely. and a lot of this information really hasn't had resources in order for it to be shared.
Yeah.
So, how has leveraging social media helped you to spread this message to the people?
Social media has been vital to what I've been able to do personally and professionally. I remember when Facebook first started, you had to be in college, you had to have a college email to even be
It was
part
a
of it.
barrier. Yeah.
And I remember like not really being interested. Before Facebook, there was Black Planet and all of this, and I just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't into social media. I found it to be a little bit intrusive. But when I got into business, I recognized that I could actually use this platform to spread information, to spread positivity, to encourage and enlighten our people. And so I've done that. One of the ways that I do that is through our Wealth Building Wednesday that we do
Mm-hmm.
every Wednesday on Facebook. And that started out, I have been considered or called the plug for years when it comes to Black resources, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people that don't know me in any way will inbox me on Facebook, or my phone number's plastered everywhere. So they'll call me or text me and say, Whitney, I need someone to do some tuck pointing for me. And such said that a Black person, I want to support Black owned businesses, and you'll know someone that can do that. Can you help me? And I'm like, sure. Tell me what area you're in, and I can get someone for you that'll be phenomenal. And that was just in different industries. People will contact me. I want to support a Black owned restaurant. I want to support a Black owned coffee house. And I would provide these referrals. So one day I was having a conversation and someone said, Whitney, you should have like a commercial spot where you just every week or every day talk about a specific Black owned business that people can support. And it would be huge because one, the consumers will be able to support, but it'll also help the businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, wow, that's a great idea. Okay, let's do it. And so Wealth Building Wednesday was born, and it was just a 20-minute segment where I would bring on Black owned businesses and allow them to talk about what they do. And it grew from there, where it was just not allowing them to talk, but me actually interviewing them, talking about how they made the jump into entrepreneurship, some of the things that they struggle with. And it's just a way to help us, one, avoid the pitfalls, but then learn those habits of success.
Mm-hmm.
It went from a 20-minute segment, and now it's almost an hour and a half every Wednesday. We get over 2,000 views every week. People are consistently sharing it, and it's just a blessing to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's amazing, and that speaks directly to you leveraging these tools that are available to all of us to get a very important message out here. And I'm sure people appreciate you for it. I appreciate you for it for sure. Now,
Thank you.
now doing all of this, starting your business in 2019, as I mentioned at the top, you've done over 8 million in sales. With all of that being said, what has been your biggest challenge at this point?
I would say the biggest challenge is shifting mindset, right? One, even with myself, shifting the mindset. Malcolm X has a saying, don't judge a person by the way that they think, because there was a time that you once didn't think the way that you think now.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we become enlightened and we become empowered, it's easy to just want to throw all that information at everyone else and then expect them to grab it immediately and take action.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always like that, right? Because there are barriers and biases that keep people from immediately receiving information.
Yep.
I can tell you 100 different ways to invest in real estate. I can tell you all the things that you need to do to prepare yourself to be a part of it. And if you've never seen anyone in your family own, there's a barrier there.
Yep.
It sounds good with me. I believe what you're saying, but I'm just not sure that that's possible. Fear is a huge hindrance to a lot of us. We really suffer as a community from PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
We have been shut down. The door's been shut on us so many times. We've been kicked so many times that a lot of us don't even believe that we're capable of growing or expanding outside of our current parameters.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest hindrance is mindset. even with myself. Growing up, I always believed like I could change the world. I mean, and my mother, my grandparents, they would tell me all the time, like, Winnie, you can do it, you could do anything. I have yearbooks from my principals at high school who were like, Winnie, I can't wait to see you on the national stage. You're going to do some phenomenal things. And then life happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
You grow up, that like mindset that you have in the clouds, and like, oh, all we need to do is love each other and
Mm-hmm.
everything's gonna be better. You realize, okay, that's not really the case.
Right.
And you start to doubt yourself. You start to doubt your own power. You start to doubt your purpose. And I fell into that trap even myself, where I was like, maybe I'm not, as smart as I thought I was. Maybe I don't have the power to change things like I thought I could. And maybe I should just, play it safe, go to work every day. I'll get my degree and I'll just do my best to like continue to climb the corporate ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to surround myself with individuals that were changing their communities. They were changing, and here's what I always tell people: it doesn't have to be huge, right? They were changing their sphere of influence,
Right.
even if that meant just one person.
Right.
They were pouring into every day, and I started to see that and say, okay, I can do this. I can reach my fullest potential, and not only can I reach my fullest potential, but I can help pull someone else up.
Right.
And I can help them reach their fullest potential. So
Right.
one of the biggest barriers in real estate, one is mindset. The other one is access to capital. It is difficult to get lending in our communities, whether that's for residential property or commercial spaces. But here's why credit score is so important,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you are young. We cannot take our credit scores we can't neglect our credit scores. A lot of times when you're going to college, or even if you don't go to college, they start sending you credit cards in the mail as soon as you turn 18, and we want to splurge, we want to splurge, we want to splurge. It's important that we're thinking about not just now.
Right.
Because once you get under the burden of debt, it is hard to come from up under it.
Yep.
So if you start out knowing, listen, I know I want to buy property. I know I want to be a landlord. I know I want to do fix and flips. Set yourself up for that. If you have already messed up your credit, there are like 20 million credit repair specialists. Okay.
Right.
Like there's a new one popping up every day. And I'm not telling you to use them. But the point is, there are way too many resources for us to have bad credit.
Right.
If you messed it up in the past, that's okay. Dust yourself off and let's fix it and get in the game.
Yeah.
That way they can't tell you no.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely see why they call you the plug now, for sure. I understand. I get it. So now I appreciate all this information that you share with our family here. Thank you so much for this. Where can people find you via social media?
You can find me on Facebook, Whitney Hampton, hyphen Hampton Real Estate and Investments. You can find me on Instagram, Whitney Hampton _realtor. You can find me on at my website, aprogenyglobal.com, and that's aprogenyglobal.com. You can call me 708-207-5492. You can Google me.
Make it happen. Look,
I can be found. If you are looking for me, you can find me.
There's one question I wanted to ask you, and it doesn't necessarily have to do anything with real estate or investing or anything like that, okay, but it has more to do with you. Because you're so dynamic and you're doing all of these things consistently. You spoke earlier about, well, you mentioned that our community has PTSD, right? So for yourself, what do you do for self-care? What does Whitney B. Hampton do for self-care?
She needs to be better at it, to be honest. And one of my goals for 2021 is actually to create balance.
Mm-hmm.
I am a go-getter. I am ambitious by nature. Once I am hooked on something, I just go full throttle and I don't stop.
Mm-hmm.
As a single mom, it's hard, right? I have to be able to give all that I have to my dreams and the legacy that I want to create for my daughter, but I also have to be able to give her the best of me as well, too, right?
Right.
And so part of that means being able to step back and set boundaries. When I tell you that I am one of those, I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I may not go to bed until 12 at night.
Mm-hmm.
My mind is constantly racing. Because of that, if someone calls me at 5 o'clock in the morning and says, Whitney, I have a real estate question, I used to answer the phone. I'll talk to you. I'll listen to you, whatever that looks like. But then when my daughter wants to talk to me, I'm tired.
Right.
So I had to learn to set boundaries and
Yeah.
say, listen, I'm still going to be open. You can access me honestly in any way. But there are hours and boundaries that have to be respected so that I can give my daughter what she needs. And so I can give myself what I need. Another thing I love, massages.
Okay.
I am a spa girl. So I love massages. I love facials. Getting my hair and nails and feet done. That is a huge self-care thing for me. I try to do every 2 weeks. I love to read.
Mm-hmm.
I love visiting new places. So I am a traveler. Even in just Chicago, I love just going downtown. I do staycations in our hotels and just, get 5-star service and then get right back to it.
Well, this
But
is a
balance is important.
right. The balance is important. Setting those boundaries is even more important because you have to keep those doors open for yourself so that you're able to pour back into people like you've been doing.
And
So,
and another way is food, right?
mm-hmm.
Okay, so during COVID, I packed on the COVID 20 that
Mm-hmm.
everyone's always posting and talking about. Why? Because real estate is considered essential business. So I never stopped during the whole pandemic. I'm out,
Right.
I'm showing property, I'm doing whatever needs to be done. And so I'm eating out every day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I packed on the COVID 20 because I'm eating out, I'm running around like a crazy person, I'm not working out. So now I'm back to working out every day, paying
Good.
attention to what I'm eating. And here's part of the difference. One, of course, you lose the weight. But most importantly, food is tied directly to how we feel,
Yep.
right? Physically, the level of energy that you have. If you're eating unhealthy food 24/7, you feel sluggish. You can't accomplish as much as you could. So paying attention to my eating habits. My self-care is going to the gym every day.
Yeah, there we go.
Making sure that I am in there like, I have a crazy day, I hit the gym. I
There you
have a
go.
great day, I hit the gym.
The beautiful thing. Well, Whitney B. Hampton, this has been such a pleasure. I appreciate you sharing all these gems and jewels when it comes to real estate and investing. And I also appreciate you taking some time to basically explain to us how you take care of yourself because we need you out here in these streets. People got houses to buy. Again, thank you so much for taking out this time to be with us and speak with the Rolling Out family. And as I always say, stay focused, positive, and productive. Peace.
Peace.